Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good night whenever you're joining us. Here, these are the instructions for 4.3. And so we got our title page. For those of you there'll be a little box here if you want to watch this instructions. If you're seeing this video, you've obviously clicked on this. So the first thing, I've given you basically an algorithm, a flowchart to help, because the first thing you need to do in this section is to explain how you understand suffering. So you can follow along. You're going to start where it says start, and then you're going to answer these questions in the boxes, yes or no. So if you think God causes suffering, you would explain why there. If you don't think God causes suffering, but God responds to suffering, you would answer here. So God does not cause suffering and does not respond. Then the question becomes, does suffering have a purpose? If you don't think suffering has a purpose, then how do you make sense of suffering with no purpose and a God that doesn't respond, or a God that doesn't respond but yet suffering still has a purpose? And then down here you should put your reference to your group discussion, because at some point I want you to talk about what happened when you made your current realities tree about suffering. Then on slide 3, here you will type up in a good paragraph what you mean by what you thought through on slide 2. So if in these boxes you type the whole paragraph, great. You can copy and paste it, or if you just use this kind of as a way to gather your thoughts, either way. But I want the paragraph on slide 3. This little box over here will be the instructions. So if you get to this slide and you forget what you're doing, you can click it and you can see me explain it. Then on slides 4 through 10, I've created to help you plan your event, the thing you're going to share and talk about that fits with suffering. So on slide 4 here, you're going to tell me what was the time that that God responded to an experience of suffering. And again, so if you don't believe in that, then it would be a time that you suffered and God didn't respond. Then on slide 5, I've given you some, if you want, I want 3 basic forms here, orientation, a challenge, and a resolution. You can go click on these YouTube videos to get a more in-depth explanation of what an orientation is, how do you write a challenge in a scene, and how do you write a resolution in a scene. I've also, on slide 6, given you a space to think about these things. So when you think of orientation, you're going to orient me to the scene. So 2 of the things you might want to talk about are who are the characters and what is the setting. Then, what is your challenge? So how does this occur? What happens to cause you suffering in this case? What interesting verbs or adjectives or any figurative language you want to use when telling about giving the story? And then your resolution. Then what you'll do is you'll grab these tables here. I like to draw just a little circle and then copy them. And so if you want, you can paste those tables into these slides 7, 8, and 9 to help you plan more thoroughly what you're going to write about. Orientation will probably be 1 paragraph. So you've got one thing here. So in this on slide 8, you're going to put your story, your challenge. So you can cut and paste here. And I've also, because your event might be a little longer, it might take more than 1 paragraph, I've given you a second box. Then how does the problem resolve itself? You can paste the resolution on slide 9 and plan how to write it here. Then what I'm going to grade and what I'm going to look for is what you write on slide 10. This should be your experience of suffering. So this should be, you should give me at least 1 paragraph orienting, setting up the scene, what's the setting, who are the characters, at least 1 paragraph describing the challenge, and at least 1 paragraph describing the resolution. Then on slide 11, you need to connect what you talked about in suffering back up to the readings about suffering and possibly even your discussion when you made the current realities tree. So I hope that's helpful. Good luck, and if you need any help, feel free to let me know.